Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. I have myself, Alan James.
And myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
It's Sunday, 22nd of July, 2018. Lastminute.com as usual, but you know what we're like. Always up to the wire, trying to sort problems out before we go live. Anyway, good evening and thanks for tuning in to Open Your Mind Radio. Before we start, we have to say, happy anniversary.
To who?
To both of us. To both of us.
And we don't even have a tune to play.
No, we don't. Basically, on the 26th of July, 2010, is when we first did our first show on Open Your Mind Radio. And so it's 8 years. We only have happy birthday. There we go. Okay, so 8 year of doing Open Your Mind Radio every week, and we're near enough every week for the 8 years.
Longer than some marriages, eh?
Oh, tell you. So, you know, that's just the way it is. 8 years doing the show. Will it be another 8? Oh, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens anyway. Right. Anyway, our guests on the show tonight are Dr. Tony Minervino and Dr. Peter Goldmann. They're going to be coming in a few minutes and are going to be talking about water conservation and various things that are going on around the planet. So we're going to touch base with them in a few minutes. But before we do anything else or say anything else, let's find out what communication channels are.
Okay, communication channels, folks.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Alright, thanks very much, Mary. Yes, the OYM chat room can be found at oymradio.com. You will see the links on the left-hand side for the chat room, and that is the place to be. If you do have a username and password, you can log in there and join the very friendly bunch of people that reside in there every week. And a big hi to all of you. You're most welcome. We also monitor the chat room, and we stream on People's Internet Radio as well. So the chat room also over there. You can log in there, you can register, and if you have any questions for our guests this evening, you can put them in our own chat room or in the People's Internet Radio chat room. Also on our own website, we do have all the usual links. We have the anti-social media Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Skype, and the email. The email is info@oymradio.com, and if you want to drop us an email during the show or during the week just to say hi, let us know where you're listening from. If you're a long time listener to the show, or if you've just found us for the first time, we do appreciate and reply to all emails. And also the phone number, if you want to give us a shout during the show to ask questions, it's 046 927 1212. Or if you're outside the Republic of Ireland, it's 00353 469 27 1212. We also have the link there for the TuneIn radio application. That's a free app for your smartphone or your iPhone where you can listen to OYM all day, every day. Alan.
Brilliant stuff. Right, okay, now we had a bit of change around again in the studio, a bit of rewiring. Hopefully the audio was fine your end if you're hearing it okay. So if there's any problems, let us know. We weren't too happy with the audio that we were getting our end here in the studio, so we had to rewire and we changed it around. So if there's any problems, let us know. If the audio is good, let us know also. That'd be great. Okay, just cracking on with a few things before we bring our guests in. I was touching base with Phil Mcconnell. Phil Mcconnell is from Able Danger, and basically Phil was on the show a few years ago. We want to get him back on to get an update. So he's a hard man to nail down because he's very busy, and so we might even just have to end up doing a pre-record with him if we can kind of nail him down. But one of the things that his Able Danger group announced during the week was there was a report about Trump and Putin meeting in Helsinki, Finland, between Presidents Putin of Russia and Trump of the USA. The Russians gave Trump at least 160 terabytes of Russian intelligence intercepts, which expose horrifying activities of many people to deliberately affect social, cultural and political chaos, to cause social, cultural and political chaos, violent riots, demonstrations, media smears, phony scandals and fake news. Some of these intercepts reveal who has been financing weapons supplies, travel, hotel, vehicle rentals and secure communications gear for terrorist groups inside Syria, Iraq and terror attacks in Europe and the US. Among the intercepted communications are mostly international phone calls, faxes, emails by members of the US Congress, US Senate, federal judges, state-level elected officials from California, Oregon, Washington, New York, city and state, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland, and Virginia. Once these communications left the United States, they became fair play for any country to spy on. Now, the full report is over on the Able Danger website. And basically, if that is the case, that Putin has given Trump 160 terabytes, watch the mainstream media or watch the alt media. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out. You know they're all trying to attack Trump and try and take him down because he's exposing everything that's going on. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. Steve?
Yeah, I just hope they're not intercepting our emails as well.
Not at all. I don't know if they find Joomla interesting, but you never know.
You never know. Anyway, DublinLive.ie reports CBD has no psychotropic side effects and has been hailed for its incredible power of pain reduction. Ireland's first dedicated cannabis oil shop has opened in Dublin city centre. The CBD Relieve Ireland store is situated in St Stephen's Green shopping centre, and its aim is to allow clients to find the best CBD product to fit their needs. Customers can now have the experience of shopping for cannabis oil products and getting advice. It's the first CBD store to open in an Irish shopping centre. CBD Relieve Ireland said, CBD is improving the lives of millions worldwide, with many attesting to its incredible power of pain reduction and ability to improve their lives with no psychotropic effects whatsoever. Well, that's a first, and let's just hope it's the first of many, because as we only discussed last week, there is a lot of information coming out on mainstream. It's obviously, we've been kind of talking about this stuff for years, and it's obviously starting to hit the mainstream, and mainstream are talking about the positive and beneficial effects of the CBD oil, the cannabis oil, with or without the THC. And I suppose mainstream can't really ignore it, so it's out there now. And let's hope that this store is the first of many.
Brilliant. Well, it's a step in the right direction, and that's where we want to go. Now, in the last few days, people are probably aware that there's been an alignment where all the planets are on one side of the sun. And this only it's only happened 6 times in the last 120 years. And we'll be able to, we're going to be having the longest lunar solar eclipse on the 27th of July, with a totality set to last a full hour and 43 minutes over Africa, Middle East and Central Asia. Nearly 4 hours will pass from the moment the Earth's shadow darkens the leading edge of the moon to the moment the moon's full shine returns, according to earthsky.org. So there seems to be an awful lot of eclipses in that period where we're getting a lot of eclipses. This one is a major one, which is on Friday, July the 27th. And then obviously next week we have the 30th, 31st. We've said before about so-called predictions, which may or may not happen. Chances are we've heard dates come and go, you know yourself. So for entertainment purposes only, we will mention that this 31st of July, which will be I did the maths on this. I actually got the time wrong the last time, because it's Queensland's time in Australia, and because they're 9 hours ahead of us, it works out to be something like 3:37 a.m. in the morning. That's Monday morning for us, GMT. So we'll all be in bed asleep if something's going to happen. That's what's being said. But look, as I say, entertainment purposes only. Don't take it as gospel. But there seems to be an awful lot going on. A lot of people are reporting a lot of issues with energy. You know, they talk about the energy sitting on the planet and people feeling all different kind of symptoms because of this. So, you know, just keep that in mind. You see what happens. Let's see what happens Friday as well. Steve?
Yeah, we have some news in from nexusnewsfeed.com, and it reads, Julian Assange's handover to UK may be imminent, according to WikiLeaks. According to a tweet by the internationally known organisation WikiLeaks, its founder's fate may be decided within a mere few days or weeks, and Julian Assange might be handed over on a silver platter by Ecuador to the UK government. Then presumably Assange will be handed over to the US government and extradited back to the US of A. The head of Russia Today, Margita Simonyan, tweeted in Russian that her sources indicate Assange will be handed over to UK authorities, My sources say that Assange will be handed over to the UK authorities in the coming weeks or even days. I hope with all my heart that my sources are mistaken, she tweeted.
That's interesting that they're, after 6 years or so, him being in the embassy, that they're going to hand him over. We'll have to see what happens. If they do hand him over, you know, is he going to disappear and not being seen again if he's extradited over to the States? Don't know. We'll have to see what happens. How's your week?
Yeah, my week's been fine. As you know, I was off this week, the whole week, and I've kind of been spent the whole week doing a little bit of DIY at home, doing some painting, and painted the windows. Well, didn't paint the windows, painted the window ledges and all the various places that need painting. And then we had some furniture, you know, the outdoor garden furniture. After the Irish weather, it kind of your furniture starts to show its age and it needs to be painted. So I was painting that, and while I was painting it, I done it in the grass, so I decided while I was in the grass I'd kick off the shoes and socks, get a little bit of grounding, a little bit of earthing going on, and while I was doing that the sun was shining, so I said, right, I'll kill two birds with the one stone, as they say, and I whipped off the top. That was out the back, so there was there was no cause for alarm. I didn't offend any neighbours. So I took off the t-shirt and I said I'll get about 20 minutes of sun, which is considered enough. And unfortunately, I lost all track of time because, as you know, when you're painting, you kind of get into the zone and you kind of tune out. So I was seemingly out there for about 2 hours.
Wow!
Yeah.
Oh, did you burn?
I did. I've got blisters on my back at the moment. My wife rubbed some cream into my back earlier on. She says you've got some nice blisters, but that's a small price to pay. But yeah, that's done anyway. While I was out painting and up the ladder during the week, I did notice plenty of chemtrails, you know, for anyone who was willing to look up. There was chemtrails aplenty. So another you know, kind of notch that we're not winning the war on we're not really winning the war on chemtrails anyway, because we are still getting sprayed. And I think during the week there should have been some nice days. The pressure was up and there should have been clear skies, but there wasn't. There was that milky kind of a whitey grey, which is kind of, you know, all kind of chemtrail related. So yeah, that's still going on. They didn't notice any today now, but maybe they take Sundays off. I don't know. And just the last thing I want to mention is Pain Genie. The Pain Genie came up there during the week. There was a lady I know, and she was on anti-social media, Facebook, and she had she has frozen shoulder. And if you remember a couple of years ago, I had the very same condition, and we rang Richard Cumbers of Pain Genie, and Richard, he basically said he could sort that out. So we said, well, put your money where your mouth is, and he came down to my house, gave me one treatment, and the symptoms of the frozen shoulder kind of went pretty much within a matter of minutes. I was almost 100% better. Well, I was 90% better anyway. And I've never looked back, I have to say. So I put this lady in contact with Anthony Hughes, who's runs a Pain Genie clinic in Stillorgan. And now she hasn't gone to him yet, so that's kind of a test case because she knows nothing of the Pain Genie.
Would you not have done it?
She's kind of over the far side of Dublin.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to drive over,
okay.
knock yourself out.
Yeah.
But the fact that I know her, you know, I would feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
asking her to disrobe.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. So I've actually put her in contact with Tony Hughes. So she said she will go along. Now, whether she will or whether she won't, I don't know. But we will see anyway. Because, as I say, she knows nothing of Pain Genie. I just suggested it to her, and I told her about my experience. So she'll be kind of going to Tony, if she does, as a novice, a virgin, so to speak. So we'll see if she does. Obviously, I'll keep you all updated if it works out for her. Because, you know, I think it will. I know it will. Anyway, that's my week there. How's yours? Okay,
just a quick update on a couple of things before we get Tony and Peter in. We got contacted by a couple who live on the Isle of Wight, and they are beekeepers. You know, we had Derek on last week talking about the shungite organic honey, and they produce shungite organic honey themselves, but just for personal use. It's not business. And they heard last week's show, and are sending us a sample of their shungite honey, which they produce. So we're looking forward to that when we get that. They said that if anyone wants to learn how to set up their own beehive and would like a sample, that if you contact us here, info@oymradio.com, and we'll send you, or we'll give you the details of the couple. It's David and Marielle, and we'll give you their email details, and you can contact them and talk to them. Now, if you want a sample, they're happy to send a sample out, but guys, it's only fair that you pay a couple of quid for the packaging and the shipping, because it gets expensive if everybody wants a sample. So if you're happy to pay a few quid towards the shipping, then they'll ship it out. And I know they offered to do it and didn't ask for that, but I think it'd be only fair for you to, send them a couple of quid via PayPal or something, just to cover the costs. But I recommend it because you're going to get organic shungite honey, and they also confirm what Derek said last week about the bees and the benefit of the bees with the shungite around the actual beehives. So I'm looking forward to anyway testing it. Now, also, people have been asking us for a source of where can they get the shungite. Now, David and Marielle actually got their shungite off JP from JP, everbeyond.com is the Wolf Spirit Radio, and JP has been on our show and we've been on his show, and his website is everbeyondradio.com. And if you want to contact JP, he said that's okay. You can buy the shungite off him, or if you want to go to the shungite factory, which is the one we've used, I'm waiting on that to come in during the week. I'm going to test that. But what was the website you bought the pyramid off?
The one I bought the stuff off was called shop.shungite. I think it was shop.shungite.com.
Okay.
I'll double check that and I'll put up the link. Yeah. But as I said in the email earlier, I think shungite is shungite.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you do the test on it, if it's conductive, then it's obviously all coming from the same place.
What I did with your pyramid is just got a multimeter, put it on continuity test, and put it on both sides.
Yeah.
And if it's conductive, it'll beep. If it's not, it won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. You don't even have to do the flashlight test. Just get a multimeter with continuity on it, and then do a test on it. It'll do the same job. So if you want, if you're interested in starting up your own beehive, or if you want to get a sample of the honey, email us and we'll send you over David and Marielle's email, and you can contact them and speak with them direct and take it from there. Right, okay. Without further ado, let's get our guests on. Now, we have two guests on tonight. We have Dr. Tony Minervino and Dr. Peter Goldmann, and we're going to be talking about water conservation and things, how important water is to all of us. As we know, the issues that we had over here in Ireland, we've had Dennis the Menace trying to instigate privatising the water over here in Ireland. So we're going to be paying for water twice in Ireland. Tony and Peter probably aren't aware of this, but we already pay for water in our taxes, and the Union went and tried to tax us again and charge us for water, so we're paying for it twice. And this is the scam. And we had the big protest in Ireland to stop the water meters being put in, but again, 120,000 people, and what do the government do? Oh, we just ignore them people. Who the hell are they? And then they carry on putting in the water meters. So they're still trying to bring it in, and they're obviously aiming to bring it in, but let's just say, let's hope the energies in the planet and the everything that's going on will sort itself out, and all that will stop, fingers crossed. But let's bring our guests in anyway. Good evening, Tony and Peter. How are you doing?
We're doing fine. Good to be with you guys, Alan and Steve.
Good stuff. Thanks, Tony and Peter, for coming on. Now, Peter, we had a little bit of problem getting you in. You said you had a thunderstorm over in Germany there.
That's right, and I apologize for coming too late on the show, and it was 1 second before your show started, the internet went back again.
That's okay. That's what we say, lastminute.com. That's us. That's what we do. These things happen. You can't help a thunderstorm. Sure you can't. Okay, before we get in talking about everything, the subject matter tonight, what I'd like to do is, Tony, if you want to start off and give people a bit of your background and let them know your background, and then we'll go over to Peter, and we do the same with Peter, and then we get talking about the subject matter.
Right. Well, I'm a chiropractor, and I've always been interested in how the body works and what makes for health and what people can do, or what's available to them to assist them in experiencing a higher quality of life. But back in 1994, I realized that while my patients were very pleased with the results they're getting, they came back periodically with the same or similar problems, and usually from the same or similar circumstances. So I realized what wasn't changing is their consciousness. They were continuing to think the same way, to make the same choices, and they were getting the same results. So from 1994 on, 1994 I got certified in network chiropractic, which is now called network spinal analysis. And I began focusing my attention on developing ways of creating a circumstance in which it would facilitate people making that shift in consciousness, letting go of the beliefs and the thinking patterns that are creating what they no longer prefer to have in their life, and begin to deprogram or reprogram their subconscious mind to raise the frequency of their mind, which raises the frequency of their thoughts, because your mind is like your brain is like a crystal receiver, and basically whatever the frequency of your mind is, that's the frequency of thoughts you entertain. And if you're entertaining low-frequency thoughts, you can have a low-frequency experience. So when people are having a health problem, they're in a frequency where that exists. So if we can get their frequency up into a higher band, their problem seems to dissipate. And it's possible if they raise themselves to a high enough frequency, the problem disappears altogether. I've seen all kinds of things disappear. So my primary focus is on consciousness and how a person can master their mind, because it's not mind over matter. The mind actually is the matter. And if a person has control of their mind and they're able to recognize when they're not feeling the way they want to feel, they can ask themselves, hold on, what am I thinking? And what must I believe to be thinking this? And whatever that belief is, it's equally true as any other belief, but no more true than any other belief, including its opposite. And if you're having an experience you don't prefer, the belief that you're focusing your consciousness through is of a frequency that's incompatible with your sense of well-being. So you just turn it around to its opposite using positive language, assert that that's your new belief, commit to thinking only consistently with that belief, and more importantly, start acting like someone who truly believes it. So that's my main focus. And then out of that, I've developed 4 technologies. Light body healing, where I actually can go into the energy fields and remove the programs that are creating what a person no longer chooses to have in their life. Belief system restructuring, which I just described as a way of deprogramming and reprogramming your subconscious mind. And and I developed an exercise program, the Transformational Workout, which frees up the body. It raises the frequency of the mind. It frees up the nervous system, and it elevates the consciousness. And it's, if a person does that 60 days straight, they'll start seeing things they never saw before, because everything that we hear about is present right here, but you can only perceive it and experience it if you're in the frequency where it exists. Okay. So, so that's basically what I'm about. And I've gotten interested in this project with Peter Goldmann of securing and protecting pristine water sources around the planet. Because, like you said, they're not only privatizing the water, but they're making decisions about what they put in the water. Mm. And water is essential to life. And we all have the responsibility of paying attention to what's going on and what type of regulations are being imposed upon us. And we need to push back. We need to take back our world.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we will get into that. Peter, if you want to give us a bit of your background, and then we'll get into talking about the subject matter.
Right, sure. First of all, I would like to apologize for my bad English, because English is not my mother language, as you know, and but I still hope you can understand what I like to talk about.
That's okay. No problem.
Okay, so, well, I was freelance since I was 18 years old, and since that time I always run my own businesses and companies, and I studied economy, and later I was a business consultant and expert in offshore structures and offshore finance, and was based at that time on the Isle of Sark and on Guernsey on the Channel Islands. However, at that time I was connected to some baristas and law companies in London, which have been specialized in offshore structures and offshore finance. Then I sold my consulting business there when I realized that the law about the consulting liabilities are going to change. Somebody from a high street bank gave me a warning that all these kind of things will change, and the consultant will be reliable for what they present to the people, and especially if it comes to tax and this kind of things. Let's say if a person who buys a structure is doing something, let's call illegal, you are in the problem with these people because you consulted them. So, and before that laws changed, I sold my company. That was about 20 years ago. And after that, I went to South Africa, where I went into the gold and diamond business. There, I also invested in small-scale mines in Angola, Liberia, and Ghana, and later also in some family-owned small mines in Asia. I stayed for 10 years about in South Africa, and I'm living now mainly in Asia. However, I consider myself also as a so-called PT, and that's called a permanent traveler, or I call it permanent traveler. And I'm not staying mainly longer than 3 months in one place, so I'm traveling around a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so a very busy guy and traveling all over the place.
Yeah, I saw a lot, and so that gives me the experience of doing different things at the moment. So because I'm a businessman, but I don't follow the business rules. Let's say that way. I'm not from the establishment, or that's why some people or business partners, and I would not call it business partners, but some people in business have a problem with me because I'm also doing things which a usual businessman is not doing. Okay. So my then after that after South Africa I went to Hong Kong and was there in the gold trading and specialized on gold options. And my latest project now was to build up the Bitgold Limited in London, which will expand next month also to Hong Kong and Singapore. And I will tell you a little bit later about this company, just a few sentences, because I like to show you how this company is connected to the foundation, what we have, because I get donations out of this company to the foundation. And further, I'm an author about 25 books. They are mainly in German about corporate finance and things like that. I also did, however, a 5,000-page study on worldwide conspiracy theories and put that study into 10 ebooks, which I also put to the foundation or dedicated to the foundation, which is then, when the website is running, available for free to all members of the foundation. And this is about 10 ebooks in German and 2 in English. All the other books, also what I had in Amazon, I recalled them, and because I'm also not happy with Amazon, but as an author, sometimes you don't have any. If you don't be on Amazon, you have problems to promote your books and that kind of things. But I'm not happy with them, so I I'm happy now to recall everything and put all the books for free in to the foundation as well, because I'm how can I say, I'm I don't find the words for it.
Okay, well, listen.
I follow the philanthropy idea, so that's what I'm looking for. So
Okay.
now I found it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what we do, Peter.
That's why I give it for free, and then to follow up with this philosophy. So, okay, that was it.
Okay, no problem at all. Right, okay, let's get into the subject matter. But Tony, tell us about the foundation and what it's all about, and and why you joined it and why Peter joined it.
Basically, the purpose of the foundation is to find and secure and protect pristine water sources all over the planet. And our initial project is in Paraguay. We've located a property of 90 acres with a excellent deep well with very pure water, and it's in an area where there's no spraying or going on, and there's no agriculture going on that could taint the water. And the property also has a operational bottling company. All right, so they're already bottling water and distributing it to restaurants and the like. And the people that own it are ready to sell it because of their age. And that's our initial project. And what we're doing is we're inviting people that align with the goals and aspirations of the foundation to contribute in any way they can, financially, help with the management or with developing the organizational structure and the like. And the long-range goal is we can form sustainable communities on these properties, and then start aligning ourselves with other major projects like the Venus Project and the Umberto Project and the like. So basically, the object is to secure the water so that we have a secure water source that's available to everybody in the foundation, and also to set up sustainable communities and create a model which other people can follow for setting up sustainable communities. It's a way of moving into a new dimension of freedom and focusing on what we can do to make the planet a better place to live in, as opposed to focusing on all the problems that are going on the planet. Both Peter and I agree that people spend too much time focusing on all the bad stuff that's happening, rather than focusing on the things that we can do to shift the consciousness of the planet. Because again, there's no healing without a shift in consciousness. And if we all raise our consciousness, we'll actually not only heal ourselves, but we'll heal the planet.
Okay, well, I'm sure you're familiar with the fact that the energies are changing, and a lot of people are kind of, people who are open-minded and outside the matrix, their consciousness level it's raising, and the frequency's going up, and the human frequency is being reported to be off the scale at the moment. So what's your take on what's happening there? Do you not think that's happening already on the planet, where people are raising their consciousness and things are changing anyway?
Oh, it's absolutely happening. But it's happening because we're shifting our consciousness. It's not like there's an outside force that's raising us up. As people wake up, they think higher frequency thoughts. And again, frequency is everything. And they're the ones that are creating that shift in consciousness.
Okay. And Peter, what's your take on what's going on globally at the moment regarding people's consciousness levels and waking up to what's going on?
Well, I'm very going with Tony in that kind of thing, because the frequencies are going higher. That's right. Also, the energy, what is coming into our world, are stronger and it will give us the opportunity to go into these higher frequencies because the sound and light pushes us in that direction. That's what I think about.
Okay. Well, we do know, I've just mentioned there earlier on when we were reading out stuff at the start of the show that, there's a lot of people on the internet saying they're feeling all different symptoms, and energy's coming in. Now, the one thing that obviously is very important part of this, and they've said it time and time again, a number of people I've noticed are saying that we have to be drinking more water for whatever reason. Now, we know that how important water is. Now, over here in Ireland, we're fluoridated. I think there's only 8 countries from the last time I spoke to, I think it was Ashleen Fitzgibbon, who was the girl from Fluoride, is it? Or the girl about
Girl Against Fluoride.
Girl Against Fluoride. And she said there's about 8 countries in the world only that fluoridate, and Ireland is one of them. And there's no benefit to that whatsoever. The Irish government are medicating the Irish people without their consent. And fluoride is a neurotoxin. It's been proven to be a neurotoxin. So, as part of you conserving certain places where they have good water and deep wells, is the foundation dealing with countries that are actually still fluoridating? Is there anything got to do with, are they looking at trying to make a change or trying to contact the governments of the country and try and put a stop to fluoridation?
We're doing our best in New Zealand to remove fluoridation. I live up in Kaitaia, which is in the far north of New Zealand, and we actually took to the streets because the city had decided we were going to fluoridate because they had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on the equipment to do it, and we said no way. And we do not have fluoride in the water up here. Whereas down in Auckland, which is it's the largest city in New Zealand. It's got 1/3 of the population of New Zealand is in Auckland. They're fluoridated. So everybody down there who's aware of the dangers of fluoride, has to drink bottled water or water that they get in casks. So very, very definitely, we're going to do everything we can to promote fluoride awareness and get it removed from the municipal water supplies.
Yeah, it seems to be, there's only a few countries now fluoridating, and you would think that the governments would get kind of wise to the fact that why are all the other countries not fluoridating? But then again, you have to ask yourself, is there something more sinister going on as to, maybe somebody's, benefiting from the fluoride going to the water?
Well, there's no question about it. It's a money thing. I happen to know the fellow that's in charge of water quality for New Zealand, and he hates fluoride, but he has to do it because the government mandates it. And there's no doubt somebody is gaining monetarily from doing this. Yeah. Because fluoride is basically a toxic byproduct of the aluminum industry and the fertilizer industry, and it's very toxic. It's very difficult to get rid of, very expensive to get rid of. And then somebody came up with a brilliant idea. Well, let's put it in the water supply. So they turned a liability into an asset. Yeah,
and industrial waste being put in the water, and we've been fluoridated. The date,
I think it's the early 60s, possibly 63.
Yeah, when we start putting fluoride in it, and the whole kind of laughable reason it's good for your teeth. Yeah, okay, people.
Well, if you look at a tube of toothpaste and you read the back of it, it says "Do not swallow. If swallowed, immediately call the poison center."
But we don't have that over here, Tony. We don't have it on our toothpaste. That's in America.
Yeah, well, it's in New Zealand as well. Yeah. The point is that they know that fluoride is toxic, and yet they put it in the water. They say, oh, yeah, but it's at a percentage that it's not going to bother anybody. And then they tell you to drink a lot of water. So, of course, the more water you drink, the more fluoride you get.
Yeah, exactly. And, this is what we say to people. If you have a well or spring water or whatever, anything but the actual tap water that you get over here until they actually change it and take it out. Peter, what's the situation in Germany over there regarding your water?
Well, I think it's the same as in Ireland, and also with the toothpaste, I think we have the same as Tony said, and I think, I can't remember right, but there is also somewhere I saw it, a sign that it shouldn't be used for small children or something like that. I think it's very similar for what Tony said.
Okay, so you're fluoridated in Germany as well?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Alan and Steve, something I noticed when I was using the Red Seal toothpaste, which is the natural toothpaste down here, and I looked at the back and I realized it had saccharin in it, and I checked all the other toothpaste, the non-fluoride toothpaste. They all contain some type of artificial sweetener. Yeah. Okay, and I don't know if we hacked into I didn't because I don't know how to do it, but one of my associates hacked into the dark net, and we actually were able to access a government file called Project Panther. And in Project Panther, it had a whole list of all the GMO components that are added to what food, that are activated by what artificial sweetener, that create what disease or condition. You know, and it really is significant to me that all these natural toothpastes all contain saccharin or some type of artificial sweetener, and there's no reason to sweeten toothpaste. No.
Well, that makes sense. There's a chemical reaction between certain chemicals, and they're putting it in different foods, knowing that that's going to cause a chemical reaction in the person's body and create an illness. I mean, that's quite convenient. That's like MacGyver stuff.
It's pretty pernicious.
Yeah. And of course, we have talked about the medical industry. You know, if you're well, you know, you're no good. A well person is no good to the pharmaceutical industry. They need sick people, and you need to be doing perpetual licensing with the medication. You know, every month buying the same tablets over the years that you're alive. That suits them brilliantly. That they love that. That's money coming in on a monthly basis, guaranteed. And that's why we have to, you know, do something about what's going on. Now, obviously, the foundation is trying to conserve places, as you said, and you're looking around for funding, you're looking around for other places. What's your plan of attack? What's the overall goal at the end of the day?
Do you want to take that, Peter?
Right. Well, we are looking for places where we have these water resources. We started with Paraguay because that is the largest Paraguay has the largest groundwater resources on the world, and therefore we thought that is the best place to start off with. But there's also other good places around the world where you can have clean and good water, like in some of the northern countries of Europe, Sweden or Norway, and these kind of places. Or also, if you go to Asia, Mongolia is nearly untouched, Laos is untouched. These kind of places are having big water resources from mountains, and which nobody touches at all, something there. So there is nothing in the ground, there is no pesticides, there is nothing at all. And I think that's the plan, but we would like to start in Paraguay because that is the largest groundwater resources in the world, and that's why we started there. Okay.
Now, we always say that water is the new gold, the blue gold. What's your take on it, Peter? As I say, over here we have a billionaire called Denise O'Brien who owns a company that's trying to privatise the water over here in Ireland. And we already pay for water through our taxes, but they're trying to kind of charge us again for the water. Obviously we know that water is a commodity like anything else. But why the actual rush to do this? I know also, I'll just add this in while I remember, the CEO of Nestle said water is not right. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if you need water to survive, which we do because our bodies are 70% of, made of water, contain water, then we need water to survive. So it must be right. So why all of a sudden interest in purchasing and privatizing water around the world?
Henry Kissinger said, I think it was back in the 60s, if we control the food, we control the world. Now we've gone to the next level, and they realize if they control the water, they control the world. And the idea, this whole privatization of water, the idea that any given location or country doesn't control and own their own water is absolutely absurd. And the people just cannot stand for that. I know when I was in Waterbury, Connecticut, my quarterly water bill was $3.14. In New Zealand, you spend hundreds of dollars a year for water.
Okay, and
that's because of privatization.
Okay, and what about? Can you not do a well? Would you have the funding to, drill your own well where you are?
It's interesting. Up here in the far north, people, for hundreds of years have just taken the rainwater off the roof. It goes into a tank, and then they filter it and they drink it. And once they privatized the water, they made having tanks and collecting rainwater off your roof illegal.
Yeah. They didn't that guy, I don't know what state it was in, was it Oregon or Portland, where he was arrested for collecting rainwater in the States?
Yeah, well, that's the point. I mean, they wanted to not only own the water, but they want to control the use of water. Yeah. So they make illegal any way that you can get around them.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is totally absurd. And again, it's all part of the fractional banking system. I mean, because basically they own everything, right? And they're the ones that have the political clout to have all these regulations put in place by politicians, which of course are getting enriched by passing these legislative policies.
Okay, and what would happen if the foundation went off and bought a few places to conserve, obviously, the water, and then the laws were changed in the country that affected what you were doing in the foundation? What's your plan of attack for that? Have you thought about that, and what would you do if that was the case?
Okay, well, basically, I'm hoping that we're not the only people that are going to be out there securing and protecting pristine water sources. And as far as dealing with government regulations and the like, the countries we're looking at don't have such regulations. But certainly that's a legal issue that will have to be taken up as it shows up.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, we all know how important water is. And, we've talked about this before, about water having a memory. And that, if you have your 2 glasses of water on your window ledge and you put a sticker on one saying happy and the other one saying sad, and you send good energy to one and bad energy to the other one, it actually makes a difference to the water. You can actually see it. And that's an experiment that we can all do just to prove that water has a memory and it can be affected by our thoughts. Have you done anything like that or come across anything like that?
No, absolutely. I mean, water's a crystal, and all crystals can store information. I have a friend, Peter, that has developed, he's developed computer programs to program water for different intentions, and in my thinking, I'm not sure if it's the program in the computer that actually programs the water, or, I think it's actually the consciousness of the person using the program that actually programs the water. But do I think you can program water? Absolutely. I mean, that's been proven by Emoto, with his freezing experiments.
Yeah.
Where the water that has a high frequency creates a beautiful crystal, and the water that has a low frequency thought put into it, the crystal is all mushed up.
Okay. And Peter, what's your take on the situation with the water over in Germany? Obviously, I know you do a lot of travelling, but what's happening over there? Are they trying to, again, privatise the water over there, or is it privatised? What's the situation there?
No, it's not privatized yet, but I think we are going towards that really, because we, even in a small newspaper here in my area, they mentioned that people in front of the European Parliament or whatever it was demonstrated because about this. I forgot again the name. The trading treatment with Japan, with the Japanese, gave the Japanese the possibility to take over also water and other resources which people are not happy about. And you can see it's always going in that direction, that it gets privatized, that somebody can take over and control it, and it's the same over here. And I think they are not aware of it too much.
Yeah, I think, well, it's a case probably like a lot of people. They're just concerned about their immediate space and what's going on in their life, and they're not really worried about the big picture until something happens, and then they'll be jumping up and down, but then at that time it'll be just too late.
Yeah, let's keep in mind the primary reason why water gets privatized is because governments don't control and print their own money at no interest. All right, they depend on the fractional banking system, which loans them money at interest. And when the governments accumulate a certain amount of debt, then the banks can put the pressure on them to privatize the local utilities. And you know, you've got countries where the water's privatized, the transportation's privatized, like in New Zealand. You know, they go back and forth between selling public utilities and then buying them back.
Okay, and has any asset stripping happened in New Zealand, like over here in Ireland? We've basically got a big funding from Europe under the guise that it's to help the country, but basically, as far as I'm concerned, and Steve, what you told me, because I wasn't living here, it's that money kind of went to the 1%. You didn't see any Celtic Tiger, and no. There was
an alleged Celtic Tiger where everyone allegedly benefited, but they didn't. The 1% benefited. Yeah, the rest of us didn't.
And then, so all our assets, because we couldn't pay back the money, the country was asset stripped, and we had the chap on who has a book out, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and he was on the show and he was telling us all what he did. Him and his team, they'd go into a country and they'd bribe them, or they'd tempt them with money, or then if that didn't work, they'd get heavy-handed, and they'd asset strip the country. And this is going on in all other countries as well, not just Ireland. And I was just wondering, have you been asset stripped in New Zealand yet, or is that going on at the moment?
Oh, it's been happening. It's been happening for decades. At one point, they sold off the railroad, and I'm not really certain on the water situation, but I strongly suspect it's been privatized because the prices keep going up. They're pretty much on the QT about this. They're talking that they've privatized some of the power generation. You know, and when you think about it, I mean, New Zealand has incredible water sources. I mean, it rains here. You know, we get lots of water, and we have geothermal energy because there's a lot of volcanic activity here. You know, we are actually in a position to for water and energy, to be almost free, and yet because of the banking system, they've been selling off the assets in order to offset debt.
Yeah. And that's their plan. That's the whole idea. You have to sell off the assets to get to pay off the debt, which is the money they gave out originally, which they produce out of thin air. You know, it's again,
right.
It goes back to the fractional banking system.
Yeah, and in New Zealand, they're actually selling the land out from underneath the feet of New Zealanders. You know, when I first got here in 2000, I came here, I was penniless, right? And I was amazed at how cheap everything was, right? So I set up a chiropractic practice and started generating an income. And there was a 254-acre property that I was very interested in. And the guy wanted $296,000 for it. So when I was in a position to make an offer, I did. He goes, "Oh, I need to get $400,000." And then somebody came in from Saudi Arabia and offered him $450,000, right? And in Auckland in 2000, in an area called Sandringham, which is by all accounts, if you look at it, a working class neighborhood, you could get a house for about $150,000. Now, the same house that needs total repair is $1.4 million. So what they've been doing is selling New Zealand out from underneath New Zealanders, because you get all this money coming in from China and different places, and they just buy up all the houses, they buy up all the property, and the prices are just getting out of sight. I mean, it's been a typical formula in banking. That if you want to buy a house, you have to stay within 3 times your annual salary in order for it to be affordable. Yeah. And in New Zealand, it's like 10 times your annual salary.
Jeez, yeah.
So there's no way the present generation is going to be able to buy a house unless they're in a very high income employment.
Well, we had the boom and bust here. We bailed out the banks. Apparently, Ireland has paid 52% of the debt of Europe. What happened when we bailed out the banks, and we didn't have to bail them out. Where Irish government, there was no contract to bail them out, and that's what really put Ireland in the trouble that it is, the austerity. So it's the whole system is a scam. I mean, there are good things happening and things are changing, but it's going to take time for the change to take place. People are beginning to wake up to what's going on, and there are good things happening. Peter, what's happening over there in Germany regarding? We heard that Angela Merkel was nearly removed from her position there recently. But what's happening with austerity and the general economy?
Well, she is still in power, but I think she lost power through her problems in her own party, and my opinion was it was the right time to remove her, but she's still there, but she lost power also in the European community. I think France is stronger now. The Italians are going between France and Germany, and so she lost power anyhow. And I think it's her last term anyhow. She will move away, and then hopefully we have the place for other people with other minds, and we can build up something new. And I like to just give one sentence to that. That's what I meant when I said earlier on that I'm a little bit different than other business people, because in my opinion, on a longer scale, we have to get rid of the financial system completely. We have to make the financial system completely obsolete, because this is the slavery of our humanity, and that has to get stopped. And it can only get stopped if we get rid of this system. Doesn't matter how, but we have to get rid of it. And that's on a long term. I think we are in a transition mode at the moment, where we can put things in, like you mentioned on your website. I saw that just shortly. We can put time bank in, right? Things like that, or philanthropy projects. And that's we can use for a transition till we come to a point where we don't need the financial system anymore, because that is our slavery.
Yeah, true. And the whole idea of usury and interest on money. I mean, we all know it's a scam. The fractional reserve system is a scam. It's how it works is a scam, and it was designed. The banking system was designed to take money off people. That's all it is. That's all it's there for. It's designed just to take money off people. If you analyse it and research it and look into it, that's really what it's all about. And again, the money goes through, I think it goes through 6 processes, And what's happening is, because the elites are buying up everything and owning everything, it means that everything, near enough everything you do, the money goes back to them. You know, and which is not how the economy should be working. So that all would have to be changed as well. But that's going into economics and really going into the financial side. We have a few questions come in from our listeners, so I'll pass you over to Steve. Steve, you want to go through the questions there for Tony and Peter?
Okay, well, the very first question that comes to mind is in relation to the economy. We actually had, I don't know if you lads are familiar with Mike Montagna. We had Mike on a couple of years back, and in relation to the economy, he tried his best to simplify the mathematically perfected economy, and he tried to educate us on this process. I have to say, hands up, I didn't understand it, and I don't know if you guys have heard of it, and if you've looked into it, and if it is a viable solution, because a lot of people out there on the internet are saying it's a cult. This whole thing is a cult, and it's ridiculous, and it will never work. But could it be used as a solution? We'll throw it over to Tony first. Have you heard of it?
No. What's his name? Mike what?
Mike Montagna, Montagne.
No, I'm not familiar with it, and so I really couldn't comment on the mathematics. How about you, Peter?
No, I never heard that also. But if I like to make one sentence on top of that, because the people always talk about the financial reset and that kind of thing, and they think the whole thing will free them or whatever. The financial reset is just working if we get a jubilee, or I call it a jubilee, which will be an amnesty of all debts for countries and also for all individuals. If we don't have a jubilee with the reset, then it's just exchanging from one cabal to the other, the whole system. That's all what it is about. And the people are not aware of that. They think when the reset comes, everything is fine. There is nothing fine. It's just a changeover to other people.
Yeah, well, sorry, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, realistically, I mean, if every country controlled their own money and they printed their money interest-free and with no debt attached, and they could regulate the amount of money in circulation in order to facilitate the business and the commercial enterprises, etc., all right, then no country would have a debt. You know, the only countries that have debt are countries that are part of the central banking system. And, you know, we've got to realize that the central banking system is set up with their fractional system. They'll eventually own everything because they have unlimited money. They create it out of thin air. And then when their business policies create a problem, like back in 2008, then there's this whole idea that they're too big to fail, because somehow if the banks fail, then everything collapses. But that's a total fiction. I mean, the fact of the matter is we need food, clothing, and shelter, and if every country controls their own money, you know, as long as you can grow food, you can eat. As long as you can build a house, you have a house. As long as you can make clothes, you have clothes. So the whole system is a slavery system, based on, controlled by the banking system. I mean, basically back in the old days, the people that had the power had slaves. And then they come up with a better idea, because if you have a slave, you have to feed, clothing, and shelter and look after their medical needs. Well, they developed the banking system, which is the new slavery. And now we all work for a living, and we have to pay for our own food, clothing, and shelter and medical needs.
Okay. Just in relation to the economy, we just have a comment in from Graham, which I just want to read out. Thanks, Graham. He said the Bank of England is protected by the Official Secrets Act. It has a company within a company called BOENL, Bank of England Nominees Limited. He said that's a real elephant in the room. Usury means interest wrecks every transaction. I think we'd have to agree with that. we've heard so many people. We've had a lot of people on over the years and over the shows, and I think in relation to the likes of the interest, it is kind of the elephant in the room, really, because I mean, it was from what we heard. I think it was brought in a long time ago. Interest was, I can't remember the exact reason why it was brought in. Was it something to do with building? Was this in the UK? I think some king brought it in, and the whole idea was he was taxing people to build the city and make it a better place. And then once that was done, I think it was supposed to stop. But they obviously got a liking for it. They got the taste, and it continued. But I mean, do either of you think? I mean, and I suppose the question is, how would you go about doing it, creating a world without interest, without usury?
Well, you just withdraw the charter of the whole banking industry. I mean, governments are controlled by the banks, but government theoretically has the power to withdraw the banking charters. I mean, don't forget, in America, twice we've gone debt-free because twice they withdrew the charters from the central banks and they created their own national bank. Of course, anybody that's done that, there's two presidents that have done that. One was Abraham Lincoln, and you know what happened to him. And the other was John F. Kennedy, and you know what happened to him. Because he was going to withdraw the charter of the Federal Reserve and set up a national banking system. All right, so governments theoretically have the power, but again, the banks have control of. I don't know if you can say they have control of the military, but they definitely have a way of eliminating anybody that would oppose their hegemony and their monopoly on the global financial system. Mm. It's like the Rothschilds said, if we control the money, we don't care who makes the laws.
Yeah. And of course, we have, Trump's in now at the moment, and he's definitely rattling a few cages because he is a businessman. He's not a politician, which is what I like about him. And the programs out there for people to destroy him. I mean, I like watching comedy programs, and even the comedy programs, the likes of Mock the Week and The Last Leg and stuff like that, these people are all programmed, and they all just seem to be attack Trump. And I mean, George Bush didn't have a high IQ. I mean, we all know George Bush didn't have a high IQ, but there's nowhere near was he attacked as much as Trump is being attacked now.
Look, Trump is an individual that bald-facedly and openly admitted that he got mega rich off the system, and that the system's totally corrupt and the system is totally rigged. Right? The reason why he's being opposed is because he doesn't owe anything to anybody, and he's a total disruptor, and he's exposing the corruption that exists. Yeah. I mean, the politicians obviously aren't working for us. They're working for their masters. The only way you can get elected is if you have enough money, and to get the money, you become indebted to the people that give you the money, and you pretty much have to do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
So the whole, so governments are controlled by the people that have the money. And again, the money, the reason why they have the money is because they're part of the banking system.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see something is happening and something good is happening. I know it's going to take a long time for change to take place, but change is happening. One of the questions we had from one of the listeners regarding the water side of things, Peter, if you want to jump in on this one, is do you think the whole idea of the privatisation of the water is part of the Agenda 21?
I think so. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate more on that? Is there any more you want to add to that?
Tony,
well, again, if you control the water, you can control the people. Because all you have to do is shut off the water.
Yeah. No, that's it. I mean, it is. It would be part and parcel. Anything that's related to affecting society, I think we can put it in the basket of Agenda 21. Again, one of the ideas that we notice over here in Ireland, and this might be happening in other countries as well, is they're trying to attack the rural communities, i.e. shutting down banking, So you have to go to a bigger town or city to do your banking, shutting down local post offices, so you have to do the same thing. They're trying to get people from outside in the country to move back in to the city so they can have more control. This is something that we heard about, and even we might talk about Agenda 21, and we said this before a couple of years ago on the show, that we Agenda in Ireland, Agenda 21, people probably thought, oh, it's over in Europe somewhere, it's not over here. But we went to our local council website, and they actually had Agenda 21 information on the local County Meath website. And I said, I couldn't believe it. They were actually talking about Agenda 21, but obviously they actually talked about it in a way that's all beneficial to the people, but shutting down facilities and services and taking them away from rural communities is not a benefit. Plus the fact that we have the installation of wind turbines for electricity, and some of these wind turbines, the energy produced is actually not going to Ireland, but it's going to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is another thing which I seen somewhere along the line of my travels, that some of the water, now this is kind of speculation at the moment because I don't have the article to call up, but something in an article or something I read was saying that some of the water in Ireland is actually being sent off to the UK as well. So that's a bit of a concern if that is the case. As I say, I'm speculating on that at the moment because I did see something, but I can't find it. If I find it, I will we'll talk about it. But that's a bit of a concern because we know that we've been strip mined with the assets over here in Ireland, but having our water taken as well it's just unbelievable.
Right. You're aware that Agenda 21 is a UN resolution.
Yeah, 1992, I think, when it was formulated.
Yeah. And basically the whole idea is they're going to move the whole population into concentrated cities and then free up all the land for nature, which means free up all the land for them.
Yeah.
Because we'll all be in the cities, and the cities will be totally capable of being locked in. You're aware of the Georgia Guidestones, yes?
Yes, yeah.
All right. I mean, the Georgia Guidestones, in 7 or 8 languages, say that in order to bring humanity into balance with nature, they're going to maintain the population be below 500 million. Mm. Well, there's 7+ billion people of us now. So how do you get down to below 500 million? And then you look at Agenda 21, you look at the water privatization, you look at the stripping of countries' assets. And you can see how they're going to do it. Mm.
Plus, we have the overpopulation issue as well, which means that they're building all these, what we call them over here in Ireland, ghost estates or estates. But what they're doing, and in my locality, it's an issue as well, where they have all these houses, but they've no resources. There's no kind of community centre, and there's no real resources. So that means that it's overpopulated. The population have nothing to do in the area because there's nothing to do in the area. So that actual kind of can affect the crime rates and vandalism, because maybe the kids or whoever are bored and they've got nothing to do, and that has to be taken into account. So I don't know about New Zealand or Germany, but that's an issue. Overpopulation and not having resources or facilities in the local area.
Yeah, well, look at the situation also. Like in Europe, like in Germany or Austria or someplace, unless you inherit a house, you're not going to buy a house, right? Mm. So how does that situation improve by bringing in 1 million immigrants, which you have to house? Mm. Like in America, we've got a big homeless problem, right? But yet they bring in immigrants and they have to house them, all right? So why would you be housing more immigrants when you've got people on the sidewalks living in tents?
Yeah, does
that make sense?
Yeah, we have the same problem here with homelessness, and we are in the same situation. And Peter will know in Germany because the whole immigrant side of things now. this has nothing got to do with the immigrants and the people from the likes of Syria and stuff like that themselves. It's nothing got to do with that. We know it's a cabal. It's a controlled thing that they're doing to bring them in because, number one, they want to water down the nationalities, which is what we were told, and also, number two, the people in specific countries, say Ireland, for example, a lot of couples are not having, either they're not having kids or they might just have one or two kids. And that means that the next generation, there won't be enough generation working to cover the pension system. So what they're doing is if they bring in immigrants who have 7 or 8, 9 kids maybe in the family, and they're all working, or some of them are working, well then they can get the tax for them. And this is also why they're increasing the pension age to make it higher. So it means that you might be dead before you get your pension, which suits them.
All right, let's go back to the original problem. People have fewer children because they can't afford more children. So that's where you want to make the correction. You want to create an infrastructure which allows people to be able to afford to have children. All right, and you're not going to solve that problem by bringing in immigrants who are going to outbreed you and dilute and eventually change the whole local culture. Because once people lose their sense of identity, their culture, they're no longer a country. They're no longer a unified people.
That's exactly what they want to do.
Well, that's exactly what the rationale is. The whole idea of there being no borders and everybody's free to go wherever, that's a great idea, all right? But the way they're going about it is they're destroying our social fabric and making us more amenable to being controlled. They're going about it in a way that's going to eventually erode our sense of power. I mean, you said it's going to take a long time for things to change. But the reality is that if everybody on the planet stood up and they said, look, this system sucks, we're not going to do it anymore, and they start focusing on local economies, we could change things instantly.
We know for example, the people like Angela Merkel and the Bush family, I believe they have land and, obviously houses down in Paraguay. So if it gets too hot for them, all they have to do is jump on the plane and fly down to Paraguay, and that's it. They're out of the problem, leaving us in the situation. Now, obviously, Peter's over in Germany. Peter, what's your take on what's happening over there with the immigrants coming in, and what are you seeing happening?
Well, I think it was the biggest mistake what Merkel ever did, and it will reflect very soon on her. But as I said before, the problem is the people cannot see the goal at the beginning. You see, they welcomed them and everything that maybe has something to do with the history of Germany, that, we also get help from Americans after the war and that kind of thing. They welcomed everybody with an open heart, but now they find out that these are murderers, thieves, and whatever. I think even in small communities we have women murdered or raped and whatever. This is all increasing, and one in a sudden we get an official statement from the police. They say, the crime rate went down and went down. Nobody believes that, because we see every day a different story of attack happening, and it's all coming from these people. I'm not talking of people who really needs help, right?
Yeah.
But I will say 80% are infiltrated, and it's a cabal thing, as you said, made by Soros and others, and that's why Hungary was upset with Soros. They even kicked him out of the country, and we all have this mix-up in the European community. I mean, I can understand that a small country like Latvia or Estonia, why they should take thousands of immigrants in their little countries. I mean, this is impossible.
Yeah, it's too much, but this is all part of the planned migration to get people in to affect the, what's going on, water down the nationalities. Steve, you got more questions for Tony and Peter there?
I do. We've some questions and some comments. We'll go to Peter first. Peter actually says this was in relation to fluoride a few moments back in the state of Victoria, Australia. While he was living there, he said it was illegal to catch and store rainwater. You had to drink the town's fluoridated water, or you would be fined. Obviously, Peter, well, he lives over in Australia, so we would probably know that to be true. And then there's a question for both of you guys. It is from Graham on People's Internet Radio. Graham says, question for the guests. Any thoughts on Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu system in South Africa?
Yeah, it's got a lot of promise. I mean, that's the future. It's all about local economies supporting each other. Everybody contributes and everybody gets what they need. And getting back to the immigration problem in Europe and America and every place else, let's acknowledge why the immigration is happening. It's happening because we're destabilizing the Middle East. People only leave where they are because it's dangerous, or they can't support themselves, or they're at risk. But what's creating that risk is the destabilization. Look what happened in Libya. Look what's happening in Syria. Look what happened in Iraq. We created the problem, and we created the problem deliberately in order to force this migration. And you just can't bring in a bunch of people that don't really like your culture.
Yeah.
And that don't want to be part of your culture, and that have no intention of assimilating into your culture. Look, when the immigrants came into America, like when my grandfather came over from Italy, they came to be Americans. They came to become Americans. And in fact, my grandfather wouldn't even allow us to speak Italian in the house. He says, you speak Italian, you paint houses. You speak English, you become a doctor. And they wanted to become Americans. But the people moving into Europe, they don't want to become Europeans. They want to transform Europe.
Yeah, yeah. And you want to put, obviously, their laws on us.
Yeah, and the idea of people moving into a country like France and then a city like Paris, and then setting up their own communities where you don't allow the police in, you don't allow the fire department in. That's like setting up a country within a country. That's totally absurd.
Mind you, the Vatican have been doing it for years.
Well, they think long range.
Yeah.
Domini, you're all Catholics now.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Peter, what's your take on it?
Well, first I'd like to say something about Tellinger. I like the Ubuntu project very much, and as I was in South Africa and I know the situation there, and also Tony and I discussed that a few times. When we get a little bit bigger, or when we establish the things what we like to do, there's still on a later stage the possibility to come together with this kind of different organizations and look how we can fit to each other, and to make the thing more attractive for a big amount of people.
Okay. And we have more questions for you, Peter and Tony. Go ahead, Steve.
We have a comment from Duncan. Duncan says, just in relation to the population of the world, he says, there's a big dispute about the world population total as not being accurate, as there is many models to prove the world population is actually lower. He said, so if people are having fewer children, then the population can't be growing. He says that's logic. Just wonder what you guys think about that.
Yeah. Whether or not the number is accurate, I think the idea that there's more people on the earth than the earth can support is totally absurd. The fact of the matter is you could take all 7 billion people, put them in the state of Texas, and everybody would have an acre of land, and the whole rest of the world would be wilderness. Well, so the idea that there's more people than the earth can support is totally absurd. The resources are there. I mean, Joseph Stiglitz, who is a very prominent economist, I think he was the manager of the World Bank at one point. He says we've reached a level of technology where we can actually provide everything that a person needs to live a good life at zero cost. And the only reason why there's poverty, the only reason why people don't have what they need is because there's corporations that are I don't want to say corporations. There's people that are controlling the production and the distribution.
Yeah.
And it's all based on a system that brings all the money up to the top and keeps the rest of us in this slavery labor system.
That's it. Well, the 6 processes of money goes through, and the system's now geared that in most of them 6 processes, the money keeps going back to the top and the same people, that's why we have a problem as well. Plus the fact we don't know whether there's 7 billion people on the planet. We keep getting told that, but I mean, to be honest, do we really know there's 7 billion people on the planet? You know? I don't know.
Well, many friends you've got on Facebook, you've only got about 6 billion, haven't you?
Yeah, about 6 billion. OYM have about 6 billion people on Facebook. You have another question there, Steve?
Just this for Peter. Peter, you spoke earlier at the beginning of the show in relation to frequencies and changing frequencies, and the question is in relation to governments. Do you think it's possible that governments are trying to alter and change these frequencies, or people won't be kind of getting a DNA upgrade, for want of a better word?
Yeah, sure. I think that's what they do all the time. That happened with HARP and whatever systems they have now to stop us from getting these energies. They do whatever they can that we don't get these energies and that we cannot upgrade. Very simple.
And of course we have the towers and various other kind of systems they use for that as well. And
5G on the way also. Because we actually heard, it must have been about 2 years ago, Peter, that, I mean, we know that the power of thought, and thought has a frequency also. And we were told, no, again, I don't know if this is true, but we were told that if everyone on the planet or on the plane or whatever we're on, if everyone kind of start kind of, not so much chanting, but if we all start kind of having the same thoughts, let's say in relation to DNA upgrades or chemtrails or whatever, that if there was enough people thinking about chemtrails disappearing, that would have the desired effect, and that it could obviously be used on larger scales too. I mean, is the power of thought that great that we can collectively change the world?
Absolutely. The reality we experience only exists in our minds, and it's our minds that are creating that reality. When we're talking about galactic forces or galactic energies coming in and raising the consciousness, that's happening because there's enough people projecting in their own consciousness that's happening. Consciousness is everything, and frequency is everything. And we talk about, HARP and chemtrails and the like, which are designed to suppress the consciousness or to keep the energies from coming onto the planet. Keep in mind, we also have radio, TV, and newspapers, which are constantly focusing people's attentions on the problems and suppressing the frequency of their minds, because they got them constantly thinking about things that are low frequency, like all the survival issues.
Yeah.
Well, if I can put something into there, the thing is also, before we always think about that a group or a mass of people, if they think the same thing, can change something. Why we don't start on each person itself? I mean, the people have to change themselves first before they can do it in a mass event. The only or the easiest thing is, if you know about the quantum structure, you can change your plasma field every momentum, every second. People have to understand that they have to get out of the negative and put it into a positive plasma field, which goes on and stays positive if they keep the frequency. So each person can do that actually by themselves to put them in a higher frequency and stay in a higher frequency. And so they can also, with this quantum structure, they can also, if they have problems will end in a positive way if they put the negative out of this, right? If you put the negative thing out of your thoughts and think positive with the next momentum, the next plasma field will be positive, and it goes on positive and positive till the outcome of the problem will be positive.
It's we have said before in the show, we have to get away from 3D thinking and start thinking in 5D. And that's really what I feel you're saying there, Peter, if that's right, is that we need to be focusing on the positive and staying away from the negative. And the more we develop and rise up our consciousness, the more, I know for myself anyway, the more I avoid the negative energy as much as I can. I'm just not interested in anymore in, any of that. I just want to keep away from it.
The problem is that everything surrounding us is put in the negative field. That's the problem. That's why if you put the TV on, is murder, is whatever, shootings. If you put the radio on, it's the same. If you go out of the street, if you read the paper, everything, whatever you do, it's negative. And it's difficult for people to get out of this because they see it every day. Instead of looking out the window and say, oh my God, there is the chemtrails and the chemtrails. So it starts already negative. Instead of, you have to understand and take it as only as a fact, right? As information. See the chemtrails, but don't go in the negative and say, oh, there's chemtrails. They poison the food, they poison the humans and whatever. Instead of doing that, you recognize the chemtrails, but don't go in the negative and you say, well, the sun is shining. Beside the chemtrails, I stay positive, the sun will come up again, and you have to put yourself in this positive way of thinking.
Yeah, myself and Steve actually did this. We started this a few years ago, where we were, you get wrapped up in the fear porn, and then we realized that that's exactly what was happening. So we just perceive everything now as information. That's it. It's not negative, it's not positive, it's just information. And that's it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You should not judge anything. That's very simple. Don't judge it and keep it as information.
And that's what everybody needs to do, because as you say, if you focus on the negative, guess what? You're going to have negative energy coming in, and it's so important to try and avoid that way of thinking. And I know it's very difficult because we see an awful lot of stuff on social media, and if you do watch the TV, obviously, sometimes on the news there's negative stuff. I mean, that's what they normally do. There's never any happy stories. You never notice that anyway with the news over the years. Very, very rarely do they ever report on any happy stuff. It's all negative all the time.
We know that's to keep us in fear.
Yeah, and just keep the negative energy down. So people have to be aware of that. Switch off your TVs and just focus on the positive stuff. As I say, I like watching comedies and...
Well, that's what we said before. I mean, that's what, I don't know about you guys, but Alan and myself, I mean, that's what we do. I don't buy newspapers, I don't read newspapers, I don't watch news broadcasts on TV, I don't listen to the radio. If I do watch anything on TV, it's generally a comedy, something that's going to make me laugh or, at least keep me upbeat. We stay away, we try to stay away from the negative. We look at the problems, but while we're looking at problems, we're looking for the solution in the problem. We're not looking at the problem as if we can do nothing about it. We're always looking for solutions, and I know that's the credo on people's internet radio, seeking solutions, and I think that's what we need to be doing.
And I think also what people need to do as well is people who go into these conferences and they talk at the conferences, they need to be aware that there's no point going up on stage and just saying, here's all the problems, folks, and then walking off the stage and not giving a solution. I think dumping all that negative energy on people, that negative information, and then just walking off is not a good thing to be doing. And if they do that, they really aren't understanding the situation.
Well, exactly. I discussed that with Tony a lot of times. Even in the alternative community, we have always put these fear-mongering things in. Doesn't matter if it's Nibiru, the reptile agenda, Armageddon, the Third World War, and you see, then they come up with the space programs. I mean, that's why we went to the foundation, because Tony and I said, what can we do? What does it change when I know there is a secret space program? What does it make with you? What does it change to your life? What does it change for humanity? Nothing, right? So we have to get out of these fear-mongering things, which they put also in the alternative media nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. We that's something that we say, Peter. What can you do about it? Even if the Earth is flat, what can you do about it? What if the moon is made of cheese? What can you do about it? There's nothing you can do. Just deal with what you can do on a daily basis and focus on the positive and stay away from the negative. One thing we say as well is that look at the 6 people around you who are closest around you, and do they add positivity to your life or negativity? And if they add negativity to your life, then take them out of the circle and just put 6 people in that do add to your life, because the negative people will pull you down. As I've seen a great quote which is so relevant: a negative person will always find a problem for every solution.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, so that's why you need, for people who are just, you know, the glass is half empty, they're the people that you just want to stay away from, because they'll never wake up, and if they do, I mean, you know, hopefully people will. The whole idea of the energies coming in is not just upgrading us, our DNA and everything else, but consciously waking people up to what's going on. And we are seeing more and more of that coming out in the mainstream media. I'm sure you guys are seeing it. Are you seeing that? Well, I'd put it to you, Tony. Are you seeing that in New Zealand, Tony, where your mainstream media is actually starting to report on stuff?
Starting to report on what?
Well, is there anything that the mainstream media in New Zealand are reporting on that 10 years ago you would not see that on the TV?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, New Zealand is very different from the States. When you read the newspaper, you're going to read about, on the front page, you're going to read about somebody who got murdered or who got slaughtered in an accident or who got raped. So it's very fear-based, and I don't see that it's changed over the past 10 or 20 years.
Right. So is there any exposures that have come out that you'd never see 10 years ago? Anything that they've come out in the mainstream media?
Well, like as an example, Tony, as we read at the top of the show, like the likes of the benefits of, say, cannabis oil. I mean, that would never have been allowed on mainstream media here in Ireland or the UK 10 years ago. But now, because it's obviously alternative media have started to report on it, and there's so much information in relation to like the positives and the benefits that mainstream have to start reporting on it now.
Yeah, there's a little of that, but it's not given the emphasis of all the negative stuff. Yeah. You know, there's no real balance there. You know, and like Peter was talking about, you know, all the stuff that people focus on, you know, like the secret space program and the archons, you know, who are out there doing all this negative manipulation. I mean, this is just a distraction. Yeah. You know, all people need to do is look at the situation they're in and make some decisions about how they can improve it, and get together with other people to coordinate on projects which can make the local environment better. I mean, because it's you know, there's an old saying, all politics is local. Well, you know, all the problems that you need to deal with and the resources to deal with those problems effectively is also local. You know, we all have the ability to control our minds if we choose to take control of our minds. And once we take control of our minds, then we can focus on the things that we can actually do something about, as opposed to distracting ourselves by focusing on things that we don't even know are real. I don't know if there's archons out there, and I don't know if there's a secret space program out there. But I do know that people are looking to government to solve the problems, and governments are the ones creating the problems.
Yeah.
You know, Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. Well, you certainly can't expect the people that create the problems to solve them.
Yeah.
Because
Totally.
they're not in the business of solving problems. They're in the business of government, and government is controlling minds.
And
Ment is mind, govern is control.
Yeah.
Controlling minds, and they're all part of all the governments are a sub-corporation of the major government, and at the head of all the governments is the banking system.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Governments aren't there to help the people. They like the status quo, the way things are, and that's what they're there to do. Keep the status quo the way it is. Keep the people down, have scarcity, ramp up the prices, and just, you know, and that's what they do. And people need to wake up to politics. I mean, politics, in it, the name itself kind of says everything, you know, or what I would always say, parasites, same thing. They suck the blood out of you and suck the energy out of the people. But that's what people need to kind of wake up to. They need to wake up to what's going on. And, you know, if voting made a difference, they'd stop us voting. Voting, it gives us the pretense that we're actually going to make a change. Nothing will change. If you look over here in Ireland, if you look at the list of people, the list of government parties that have been in since 1922, most of it is one party is Fianna Fáil. And since 1922, nothing really has changed in Ireland. I mean, people have to wake up to it and realise that it's futile voting because it's not going to get you anywhere.
Well, you know, there's a minister in Canada that presented in their government forum, and he said the problem is that we live in the world of the mice, and we're the mice, but we keep electing cats to govern us. And, you know, cats are really good at passing legislation that's good for cats, but not so good for mice.
Yeah.
And when the black cats create a situation which is intolerable, then we elect the white cats and expecting change. And when the situation turns out to be even more intolerable, then we elect the black and white cats. Yeah. He says, but we're the mice, and we got to stop electing cats to control us. You know, I don't think it's a mystery that you know, the people that aspire to power often are psychopathic. You know, and we've got a world that's being run by psychopaths. You know, the wrong people are in charge of the ship. Yeah. And you know, the planet's a ship, and the planet is going through space at an unimaginable speed towards an unknown destination, and we got the wrong people in charge of the ship. And it's time for the people to take charge of the ship.
There has to be a mutiny. Chaps, we've reached that time in the evening, and we'd just like to say a big thank you for yourself and Peter coming on the show. Now, what I want you to do, Tony and Peter, is to give a plug to the foundation, and just a reminder what the foundation's all about, very quickly, and then I'll pass you over to Steve, and Steve's going to get all your contact information. If you want to go ahead, Tony.
Cool. Yeah, what we hope to do with the World Healing and Liberty Foundation is to secure pristine water sources and protect them for the use of everybody in the foundation. And if you want to get more information on the foundation, you can contact us at, let me see if I can find that email. Well, you can contact us at whlf@planetmail.net. It's whlf@planetmail.net. And if you want to reach me, I can be, my email is Dr. Tony, DRTONY, @thehealingbusiness.com. My website is thehealingbusiness.com. And I can be reached on Facebook at Tony Minervino, or on Skype at DRTONY, MINERVINO, Dr. Tony Minervino, all one word.
Now, you're obviously based in New Zealand, so people will have to allow for if they hook up with you on Skype or whatever, they'll have to allow for the time difference.
Yeah, check out the world clock. That'll tell you what time it is here.
No problem. Peter, do you want to add to that about the foundation?
Right. I just like to add some small things. The membership on the foundation is for free. Everybody can come and join that. If they write us a short notice, we will send out our initial announcement letter and also our membership application form. It's very simple and easy, and then we also will send out the project what we have at the moment from Paraguay. There's pictures in. There is the project explained, what we like to do there, how big it is, and so on, and what donations we need to go ahead. And that's mainly everything. Tony mentioned already the email address, and that's mainly everything.
Okay, Steve, do you want to add to that?
I just want to say, we have the Dr. Tony at the Healing Business. We have WHLF@planetmail.com, but the one thing we don't have is a web address for the WHLF.
Right, because we are still have the website under construction. That's the problem. But we have the domain already. That's www.whlf.org.nz for New Zealand. But the website is not ready yet because it's still under construction.
Okay, no, that's fine. So if people do want more information, then WHLF@planetmail.com. That is probably the best email address then, yeah?
That's right.
Great stuff. Do you want to make that last statement from Chris?
Yeah, we just have two last comments. Well, I suppose a comment and a very quick question for Tony. Chris says, Steve, please tell your guests the Archons are not a distraction, believe me. That's Chris, one of our long-time listeners, and we know Chris has had he's had some incidences. Maybe
his own personal experience.
His own personal experiences, I suppose. And very lastly, Tony, Graham on PIR chat says, that sounds like a Norwegian blue. Can you confirm, is he right or is he wrong?
I have no idea what that means.
I think it's the bird in the background.
Your bird?
Oh, the bird. Oh,
yeah.
It's a lorikeet, an Australian lorikeet.
A lorikeet, okay.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, lads, listen, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and peoplesinternetradio.com.
Yes, allegedly there is a starman in the sky, and he's doing all sorts of things up there. Yeah, that's a lot of heavy information from, well, according to Moon Girl on PIR, heavy information this evening from Dr. Tony Minervino and also from Peter as well. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. But again, as Alan said earlier, it's just information. You neither have to believe it nor disbelieve it. Just put it in your folder.
Just doing your own research. You know, that document that we just talked to him about during the musical break, and unfortunately you can't get a copy of the document, but as we said earlier in the show, if you have GMO foods that are activated by certain chemicals in toothpaste or whatever, it's a bit MacGyver, all right, where you have XY chemicals and they react to each other, and that's interesting and disturbing at the same time. We'll have to see what we can do if we can get our hands. It's Project Panther was the actual project name for that. That's what Tony said. So we can get a copy of the Project Panther file that actually says which chemicals activate other chemicals which cause illness in your body. That would be very interesting to get. And I do think we are getting more and more GMO foods over here in Ireland. Yeah. I have a funny feeling we are, you know that?
Oh, we are.
You know, so we have to be careful and we have to watch out what we're eating. And, you know, I'm beginning to kind of just drink water these days, that's all. And I've moved away. I don't really eat breads. I'm trying to avoid breads now. And as that chap that was on our show, James Cummins, was it James Cummins? Yep. He talked about the Rivita, which is better than obviously the breads and what's in the breads. Yeah, so you know it's all about change. The other thing I want to mention is the magnesium spray that you can buy in the health shop. I had a bit of a problem with my elbow, and I don't know whether it was arthritis or whatever it was. It was acting up a bit anyway, and I've been spraying the mag spray, once a day, and I have to say, I pretty much think if it's not gone, it's near enough there, because I haven't felt anything now for the last couple of days, and I'm pretty chuffed, actually, to be honest with you.
Can I just add to that as well? Because you know the way my mother-in-law suffers with arthritis, and we did have her. She was taking serapeptase before, but then she said it to her GP, and the GP said, "Oh, you don't want to be taking that," so she stopped. And since then, she's been in constant pain with the arthritis on a daily basis. So eventually, last Friday, it kind of came to a head. My wife had her in the health food shop down there I think it was in Kells, and the lady behind the counter told her the benefits. Like, obviously, she heard it from another person, the benefits of the serapeptase. So she ordered some serapeptase, and she also got the magnesium spray. And my wife rang her this morning, as she does most mornings, and she said to her this morning, I think she's been taking the serapeptase since, I think they came in, was it Tuesday or Wednesday? So she's been on it less than a week, and when she rang her this morning, she said, I have to say, she said, that stuff is working wonders. And she goes, what are you talking about? And she said, that spray. She said, me hand, I normally wake up with pain, she says, and I rubbed it into it last night, and she said, I've no pain this morning. So she's taken the serapeptase, and that combined with the magnesium spray is working wonders.
I'm glad she's gone back to taking serapeptides.
Yeah.
By the way, we started that in the health shop. They didn't have serapeptides until we asked for it in the health shop.
Really? They can't keep them on the shelves now. Actually, the lady that's down there, she's taken it. And she's taken the strong dose of 250 units. Yeah. She's taken those as well, and I think she's taken something. She's also taken. I think she was telling my wife she's taken. They have I think it's a number 10 strength or something, CBD oil that she's also taken as well. And seemingly, both of those items they're obviously quite popular at the moment.
There is a chap I'm going to be speaking to shortly, and he suffers from COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Yeah. And one of the things that Richard Cumbers said to us, I have to speak to Richard, Pain Genie Richard, but he said get him on some Pain Genie treatment and heavy dose serapeptides, which clears up mucus.
Yep.
So I'm going to...
I can attest to that as well, because I used to suffer a lot with sinus, and it's a thing of the past now.
Brilliant. So I'm going to see him probably tomorrow or Tuesday. I'm going to try and hook up with Richard. We've been missing each other. I want to have a talk with Richard. But folks, honest to God, check it out. Do your own research, obviously, and check it out. But especially, if you're of a certain age and you have aches and pains and stuff like that, your knees and all that, because magnesium is one of the top 5 things our body needs. And when people start suffering from arthritis, it means your body lacks magnesium, and your vital organs need magnesium, so it takes it from other parts of the body, like your joints, and that's where the arthritis starts kicking in. That's one of the reasons, anyway. So by getting the magnesium back in your body, and putting it on your joints, you're actually putting it back in. And I swear by it, because I've been using it, and I have to say my elbow has been quite good. And my partner uses it. She has a dodgy hip, and she uses it, and she said the pain is gone. So if you are suffering or in pain, then have a look at using these. But do your own research on it. And the serapeptides as well, very good with that. The one thing, I still have the spirulina. I haven't really gone near the spirulina as such, because when you put spirulina in water, it tastes terrible.
It doesn't taste that bad. Stop.
It's terrible. So, the only way, apple juice or something, maybe put it in a bit of apple juice. I've also been doing the cleansing. I said it on the last show about, I'm going to do a video. I think I'll do a video on this, to show people. It's the lemon, the sodium bicarb, and the water, right? So I did a little test during the week. And when you do the pH on the water on its own, it's something like 6.5, something like that, right? Or was it 7.2 or something? And then you put your bicarb in, and the alkaline goes up with the bicarb in it, which is great. And then you put the lemon in, and then it goes back to like 6.5 or something like that. I'll do a video on it and I'll show you. So just to bear in mind that although the lemon is bringing down the alkaline level in the water, it's still a cleanser. So, you know, every now and again, I'm not saying you take it every day, but every now and again, I suppose it's good to kind of flush the system. And I've noticed one or two things in a positive way by doing that. One or two little aches and pains that I've had have not been there. And I'm thinking, okay, I wonder, is that because I'm taking that, or is it because the serapeptides, or is it because of the magnesium oil, you know, the magnesium spray? I don't know, but it seems to be having a positive effect anyway. So having a cleansing system like that every now and again won't do any harm, I suppose. But again, I'm no doctor, so I'm not giving this as advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. And if you want to do it yourself, then check it out. But I will probably try and do a video during the week and put it up, and you can just see what I'm doing. And we'll do the pH thing as well, and you can see what's going on. I think that would be good to do a little video on that. Right, for myself, anyway, from next week, by the way, we have a girl on called Gillian from Jilly Juice. Apparently they tried to stop her promoting this product because it's very good and very beneficial. We were told about this by a listener who I spoke to. And I said, right, we'll ask Jilly to come on and talk about it. It's got to do with cabbage and juice and all that, and loads of benefits health-wise. And also, we're going to be hopefully having Kevin Hendrick on. He's an audiologist, and he deals with hearing. And believe me, with some of the things that we hear these days, and we have to do a double take, it might be an idea to get your hearing tested. I had my hearing tested with Kevin, and it turned out pretty much okay. It wasn't bad for my age and everything else, and 20 years of rock music, but 20 plus years. But it worked out in the end, so it wasn't too bad. But okay, for myself, Alan James, take it easy. We'll catch you later. We'll catch you next week. Have a good Eclipse on the 27th, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, that just leaves me to say thanks for joining us tonight on both of the chat rooms, on PIR and also OYM. If you listen to the podcast as well, you're very welcome. Remember, do send us an email if you're a first-time listener, or if you're a long-time listener, you just want to say hi, please do that. Steve Roberts is up next on People's Internet Radio, and tomorrow night on Monday on PIR, Meandering Monday, Joan Fairport and Graham will be discussing how to approach the 5G smart meter debacle from a common law perspective. So they're looking for input there. So join them, PIR, tomorrow night at 9 p.m. We'll catch you all again in 7 days. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Open your mind.